everyone, Carol and Kristen here of Luminous Ministries, and we don't know about you, but something that we've been thinking about lately, especially as we're getting to Holy Week here, it's coming right up, we're entering the end of Lent into Holy Week, we're thinking a lot about the fact that we are God's first, and that's something that, obviously should be kind of a no-brainer to us. Like, God created us, we're His first, and at the same time, when that goes into real practice, can be a little bit more revealing, that it's like, whoa, do we really think of ourselves as being God's first? And we're going to share an example from our own life about a time where that really came to the forefront for us and was almost kind of a pivotal moment of shifting that thought process to like, no, we must respond to God's call for us because we're God's first, no matter what. But an example that I heard recently on the Do Something Beautiful podcast by Leah Darrow, who is another Catholic speaker, it was a phenomenal interview, and I can't even remember the woman she was interviewing, but the woman she was interviewing was talking about the Pietà, so that sculpture by Michelangelo where Mary is holding the crucified Jesus. And she started talking about the fact that Mary so acknowledged that Jesus was God's first, and it is evident in this sculpture. And I thought, well, that's really interesting, because we've seen, we've seen replicas in person. Yes. They had it at like World Media Families and stuff, but it was not, the one, but a replica. But anyway, we've seen this before, and she said something that I have never heard, and so I even was like, is that right? And I went back and looked at the picture. I had to confirm.
You do that all the time.
It was in fact correct. Yeah. That as Mary's holding the crucified Jesus, so she's, cradling him in her arm, but her other hand is facing palm up, like surrendering him to God. He is yours first. Which, like, just think about that. If you were, you're so devastated about your child, no, he's mine. You're clutching him to yourself. Your hands are closed, and no one would have judged her if her hands were closed. Yeah. But what are they? They're open and surrender. He's yours first. Right. And so I was just thinking, she's always such an awesome example, but yet again, even in this most crucial hour, how she's constantly showing us and pointing us to God and giving us her son.
And that's a perfect example of, she's a mother, and as a mother myself, that's exactly how I feel about my children, is that, that God gave them to me as this gift to raise and to nurture and to love, and what a profound gift. But there does come the day, and it really comes the moment they're born, that, in a very real way, the moment they're born, you're already giving them up, because you never know what the next day is going to bring. You don't know how long they're going to live. You don't know what kinds of challenges they're going to face, and what you're going to have to live through as a family together. And, it's very hard, especially when they go off to college and when they get married and, start their own families and whatnot. It's very hard to give up being that protector, that, that mother figure, that nurturer. It's very hard to say to God, they are yours first. But at the same time, I've just kind of been experimenting with that a lot lately. So it's really interesting that you would think of this topic, because in the last month or so, one of my prayer focuses has been that my children are God's first and mine second. So it's kind of interesting, because while that takes some of the pressure off of you, it takes some of the pressure off. It's not, well, they're not just my children, they're yours too. So if something doesn't go well, they're your children. They're your children. But again, if something, the things that do go well, it's like you can't be all prideful about it, because it's like, well, they're your children. Yeah. You grace them with these gifts and these talents and these abilities. And so, it's just getting to that place of neither taking the credit nor the blame, but just surrendering them to God. Yeah. And actually, while that is a very hard thing to do on the one hand, from a spiritual and sacred perspective, it is a freeing thing to do. I think I'm finding more freedom in the better able I am to literally say to God, they are yours first. They are yours. And you gave them to me to help along the journey, but that frees me up.
I agree.
I like that.
Well, and I think that it helps free everyone up to be who God created them to be, because I think the story from my own life where I felt like we hit this really hardcore was when I decided to audition to go to the Interlochen Arts Academy. And it wasn't even something I necessarily wanted to do. I just really felt like God kept like putting it on my heart to audition.
No plan to do
No
that.
plan to do it at all.
She is a couple of weeks from starting her senior year in high school, and she had been at the Interlochen Arts Academy for the last two summers. For the last 2 summers. She's just getting ready to start her senior year. She's our third and last child that's going to be home with us, and we are just looking forward to savoring that last year with our last child. And we go to pick her up from the camp so that she can start her senior year, and you take it from there as it's revealed to her.
Yeah, no, I felt like God was putting it on my heart to audition, and I didn't even want to, but I was like, all right, fine, God, I'm just gonna audition because I'm never gonna get in, and like, I'll just do it to get it off my back, you know. And then I found out the last night of camp that I was accepted. And so here we are having this conversation, and
she calls us in our hotel room at 11:30.
It was late.
It was late, almost midnight, and she says, "I have something I need to talk to you about." And she lays it on us that she feels called to audition and go through with this. And we were. It was as much as we were devastated at the thought of losing you a year earlier than we had anticipated. God also provided us the grace to accept it, to work with it, to be open to it, to be optimistic about it. And he really did. He did. And as we won't get into a conversation about this, but we both feel that God had been preparing our hearts for that move for years. At certain things that were happening that just were preparing you for that moment and us for that moment. We all had to be somewhat prepared to even go forward with it and accept it and do it. So
yeah, and I think it came back to, and even as the child, so as the parent, you know, you guys were like, she's God's first. But even as the child, you know, I was like, I am God's first, and I really feel like is calling me to this. And you know, like that, but that's so tough because, you know, you love your family and your family bonds, and anytime that maybe something you're being called to is stretching you away from other things that you are deeply called to and a part of, that's really, really hard.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, that is what Jesus did with his apostles. You know, here they were, you know, just fishing, doing their work. And, you know, he says, come and follow me. And, you know, they're not even really given much time to say goodbye to their families. And that has always been a tough thing for me to swallow because, like, you're not even giving them time to say goodbye to their families. But you know what? But it's that deeper message, I think.
It is. But at the same time, it makes me wonder. I have to believe that he actually was preparing them mentally, emotionally, spiritually to begin a journey such as that.
Yeah.
And they didn't even know it. Yeah. They didn't even know it. We didn't know that we were being prepared for the journey of you to go to Interlochen. But you know, one of the ways that God did, I'll just give an example of one of the ways that God did prepare us. So she, as we mentioned, had gone to the camp for 2 summers in a row. And so God prepared us to fall in love with Interlochen, to fall in love with the pines, with the lakes that surrounded Interlochen, with the music that was being created in that beautiful space, and with God, we knew that God had gifted you with the gift of music, vocally, and so we knew that if you were going to use that you had to, you had to hone in on that skill, and that how are you going to do that if you don't leave the shores? And so, this was a little sooner than we expected, but we had already fallen in love with the space and the place and the mission of Interlochen, and I think that was one of the ways that God helped us to let go at that time.
Well, I think another way, when you really go back and you think about it, and we've written all of these down, and so we'd encourage you too, if you have a similar experience, to really write that down, because I think one of the most beautiful things is being able to go back and see all the ways God prepared you for certain things. But one of them was even like super blatant, was our neighbor man, George, saying to my mom right before I went back for the second summer, he says to my mom, Carol, you better be careful, because the girl that I knew who went to Interlochen for 2 summers, she ended up going to the academy, and she just laughs, she's like,
I did.
Think, George, that is never going to happen.
That is not Kristen. No, she's a homebody. She loves being home. That is That's a nice thought,
She
George.
comes inside. She tells me we both laugh. I mean, this is how much we were like, that is never going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the whole, you know, we make our plans and God laughs. Well, he definitely got the last laugh. But, you know, I'm, you know, in subtle ways, in very blatant ways, in very obvious ways. And, you know, there were so many ways he was preparing us for that.
Yes.
And opening our minds to this truth that we are his first.
Right.
When he is calling us to something, we need to respond and we need to answer the call, and we need to do so with open hands and just offering ourselves as we are to him to do whatever it is he's going to do with our lives, which is something beautiful because he has us here for a purpose and for a reason. So, you know, as we're coming full circle, yet again, coming to the end of Lent, coming into Holy Week, I would just really encourage you to maybe spend some time. If you don't trust us about the Pietà, like I didn't either, go look at it again and see that Mary is holding her son and the other hand is open in surrender to God. He is yours first. And then maybe take some time to think about how you can respond to that same truth and wrap your mind around that same truth, because yet again, it's like we know it's true, but then in the practical application, you're like, oh man,
Always the tricky
do
part.
I live like that's true? So yeah, but if you're feeling so inspired by today's video, please feel free to donate to our ministry at www.luminousministries.com/donate. And like we said, let's all practice having our hands open, surrendering ourselves and our loved ones to the Father, because we are all his first. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you again soon.